Well, we try again. Are you
Good morning,
there?
Ron.
Good evening, Peter. Oh, so we try the third time.
Well, you got to get lucky. Mercury's out of retrograde, so we should be having good communications.
Okay.
Well, it looks like
So
we're
let's
freezing.
let's actually pick up where we were on vegetarianism.
Yes.
So
My conversation the other day with someone who said that he asked me if I ate meat, and I said, "Well, look, I live in an extended family, and my mother-in-law is Italian, and we eat traditional Italian fare, and I eat pretty much anything, and I eat with gratitude." And this person said, "Well, how can you be spiritual if you eat meat?" And almost had me in stitches, but I was trying to be polite, so I suppressed the laugh, and and these are the sort of things that in that sort of imposed spirituality that imposes conditions on you for your ascension. Once you achieve this and you achieve that and you do this and you learn that, then you become a worthy candidate for ascension. First of all, I don't want to ascend anywhere, not unless I'm safely inside a spaceship or an aeroplane or something like that, because I don't really think there's anywhere to ascend to. I just want to be my natural self, and that seems to be the two kinds of spirituality that are going around now, which is the sort of salvationist,
or escapists.
yeah, escapist salvationist. Meet these conditions, and you will, Jesus is going to come and save you, or the aliens are going to come and pick you up, or and it makes you sort of think. And then on the other hand, you have the people who say, well, you're God embodied, you're source embodied, so all you have to do is lose the limitations of the belief that you have that you are not. You just have to lose the rubbish that they've put in your head and lose the conditioning, and that's very much what I subscribe to. Salvation, if you ask me, is just stop believing all the rubbish, basically, that I've told you, and return to your natural self, and re-find your connection with nature, and re-find your connection with source and the universe, and all else will be added on to you, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, as we were saying earlier, as I was saying earlier when we were talking at the first try, uh, spirituality and connection to source and connection to the planet, to life, is shown by the indigenous people. And I don't know that there are any vegetarian indigenous people anywhere on the planet.
Uh,
Vegetarianism is a learned uh, thing that is taught by religion, basically. And
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, I think you'll find most of the indigenous tribes will be people who, when they eat with gratitude towards the animal that just laid its life down to sustain them, or even for the vegetable, and gratitude towards Mother Earth for what they've been given. And I think that's much more important of an attitude than some imposed condition of vegetarianism. But that's all the sort of salvational sort of religions and beliefs that seem to carry those restrictions or those impositions, and I think it very much comes down to the fact that, or what is for me a fact, and for many other people a fact, is that humanity thinks that it's at the top of the food chain on this planet, and it's by no means at the top of the food chain. We are also hunted by a predator, and voraciously feasted upon by a predator on this planet. And it doesn't matter what you call it. Don Juan calls them the flyers, and they give rise to the legends of the vampires. John Lash and the Gnostic sort of guys call them the archons. I just call them the predator, basically, and that's where this type of spirituality comes in very handy, because the predator is an inorganic being which lives in just a dimension above us, I suppose, which is an etheric dimension, and it's not an organic being, and it lives off the etheric energies that thinking creatures such as ourselves emit. So they have an immense interest in us being in the left brain and going through all this excess speedy thought processes, because it generates a type of energy that they like to feast upon. And to me, that's not a bad thing either. It's just natural when we prey upon when we go and hunt, or Indigenous people go and hunt. They'll go and hunt a deer rather than a tiger, because obviously for obvious reasons, and they're going to grab the slowest and oldest deer, and that's just a natural way of the cycle of life, the circle of life. And so yes, we are being preyed upon as well. And if you look at what the predator really likes us to have is no spirituality, because that throws us on our wits of our mind and our brain, and therefore generates a lot of left brain activity and emotional stress. They like to feed on those lower type energies, if you want to term them that. I mean, they like to feed on those type of energies, basically. And for somebody who's in their natural state, where the balance between left and right brain is there, that pronounced, more frantic type mind activity isn't there, and it doesn't give rise to the more frantic and coarse emotional types of energy. So they really can't feast on you. So they only really feast on you if you're like the weaker older deer, or the really young one that can't really run very well or look after itself. And so to me, it's like a lot of people go, oh, predator, oh, vampire, And to me, it's just, if you don't feed them, if you don't leak energy, if you don't put sugar out on the trail, then the ants won't come. But they do seek to induce in people that thought activity and that mental activity. So the kind of spirituality that they would like us to have, and they do influence our minds to create that sort of activity. And the kind of spirituality that they like us to have is the escapist spirituality, because the moment that I'm experiencing something within myself that I can't deal with, and I run away from it into love and light, or whatever it is, deliver us from evil. And then all of a sudden I've split myself in two again, and then you have two polarities. You have your dark polarity and your light polarity that you've escaped into. And then, of course, between those opposite poles, you have a discharge of energy, like a positive anode and a cathode. So you have a discharge of energy there that inner friction that you have generates. So the escapist spirituality is really something that the predator thrives on, because it engenders conflict within the person themselves. So to say that you must be a vegetarian, for instance, in order to be spiritual, is generating conflict in a lot of people, because some people have the types of constitutions, and I know that from when I practice homeopathy, where you look at a person like an onion with different layers and a series of constitutions, that's with each level of treatment that you dig deeper and you peel back more layers, and then you get eventually to somebody's basic constitution. And let's say a basic homeopathic type of iodine, if they don't eat meat within 6 months, they turn into an emaciated, skinny, horrible, they're the people that give vegetarians a bad name. Did you see him? He's a vegetarian. Oh my God, he looks emaciated. No, keep eating meat. So for some constitutions it works, and for some constitutions it doesn't work. But of course, the moment that you're trying to live up to this ideal, and then you get so many vegetarians, you see their eyes move when you're walking through the city, and they catch a whiff of a burger somewhere, or a bit of bacon or something like that, and their body is going, I want that, and their own inner ideal is going, no, I can't have that, otherwise I can't be spiritual. So body craves it, and the mind's convinced that it shouldn't eat it because it's not spiritual. So there you have conflict between your body and your mind, and there you're generating energy that can be used and abused by a predator.
Well, I'm convinced that any spirituality of extremes is not going to be one that makes us whole. And much spirituality is extremes. I mean, to me, spirituality is about allow everything, but in moderation.
Absolutely. Allow everything. Resist nothing. Resist nothing that's in yourself. You know, I was a
And
vegetarian for
especially not
25
within
years.
yourself. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Ron?
Especially not within ourselves. And that's where all the warfare really originates on the planet. It originates in each of us as individuals.
Yep, exactly right. It does. You know, it begins with my inner conflict. And then when I'm in conflict with myself, I project that out into the world. So all of a sudden I'm in conflict with my child, my wife, my neighbor. And then it's a community that's at conflict. And then, you know, the community is at conflict with another conflict. We're just really collectively externalizing our inner conflicts.
And
And
destroying those that love us.
yeah,
Hurting,
yeah, yeah.
wounding, not destroying, but wounding those that love us the most
Yeah, well,
and
those
that
who
we
are
love
wounded
the most.
wound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. This whole religion thing.
Yeah, well, there's always those who tell you that you know you are God embodied, and the funny thing is that the ones that tell you just you know drop the rubbish that you've been taught and just stop believing that you're not worthy of love and stop believing that you're not source. They're usually the people that won't charge you any money. You know what I mean? They just feel what they feel and returning to feel they're on their journey to dropping all the rubbish and returning to their natural selves, and they naturally want to share that. Their motivation is just pure and simply to share that. And then there are those like the religions who say, well, you're a sinner and let me interject and intercede with you on your behalf with the Lord, and you pay me a small fee. And then you have those that you know you can't be spiritual until you know you master energy and you become psychic and you become telepathic and all that sort of stuff. And of course, telepathy and clairvoyance and all these things do exist, but and in a natural state, they just naturally come to you when you're required to have them. When the universe wants you to know something, and it can only convey it through those means, then maybe yes, you'll have a telepathic or clairaudient or psychic moment. But the moment that your ego seizes upon that and says, "Well, oh, that was telepathy. Now I've got to have it," and the moment you go chasing after it, there will always be people there say, "See, you're not quite good enough because you know, yeah, you got the beginnings now because you had a telepathic experience, and I'll teach you how to do telepathy, and it's only going to cost you, you know, $195 a month." And so there are those who prey upon us in that way too, and generally they are, or a lot of those are, and I won't say everyone, but a lot of those are inspired by the predator. And the predator, once having established a particularly strong bond with a particular person, can give you visions, can show you things that you normally can't see. Because of its very nature, and its nature as being etheric, it has different capacities to what we have. And then those people quite often become magnets for people who are looking for spirituality but believing that they're not worthy. So they start giving them courses and so the predator's influence spreads throughout the whole group, and it becomes a nice steady harvesting system for them. So there is a very, very large difference between returning to your natural self and the idea that you're not good enough and therefore you have to learn all these skills and learn all that sort of stuff. And generally there is some form of energy harvesting in terms of the person who's harvesting money from you, or adulation and admiration for that matter. And you know, and then there's the energy harvesting that goes on. So as much as all these things are within the realms, telepathy, etc., and clairaudience, clairvoyance, and things like that are within the realms of our capacity, they're not really skills that we can learn. And that's basically where the split lies. Is that some will try and work with you to return to your original self and lose the programming and lose the influences that have been programmed in us. And some will tell you that you're not good enough, and they will add the value onto you and they will show you the way. And most of religions are set up like that, and they all have been set up under the influence Although I believe the original teachers like Buddha and Jesus and Lao Tzu and they were absolutely genuine, but the whole ring circus, three-ring circus that was set up around them was inspired by the predator, because that has set up an enormous harvesting system. So every time I say, Lord, deliver me from evil, I don't want to see the evil, I'm creating that split in myself, and I'm generating that energy frequency that is so much required. And since the religions have been losing a foothold, especially in the Western world, you see that the actual sort of New Age religions have exponentially increased because obviously, the predator needs to be fed. And this is something that we need to be aware of, but not afraid of. And we need to use that as motivation to be our own natural self, because I don't.
Authentic self.
Authentic self, exactly. The way God made us, if you want to put it that way, the way the universe put us together, one with nature, and not even, you can't even say one with nature, just of nature, being nature itself, and being the universe itself. And so in that state, you are not fodder for the predator. You're not the young helpless deer, or the weak deer. And so I think it's fine. I think it's fine that we eat what is below us in the food chain, and we eat the weak and the available ones. And so, there's a whole food chain that goes beyond our capabilities for recognition throughout the cosmos, and we're part of that food chain too. And if we think that we're the highest thing in the food chain, then we really have to examine our own arrogance, I think. If you've ever read The Secret Life of Plants, people say,
Oh yes, yes.
animals are too intelligent. I don't want to hurt animals because they're intelligent and they're emotional. Well, if you read The Secret Life of Plants, you'll know that plants have telepathic abilities and have even much, much finer evolved emotional bodies than humans or animals even. So I would argue that some of the highest evolved form of plants are probably the highest evolved beings on the planet. So to be just a vegetarian to say, well, I don't want to hurt animals because they're emotional. Well, read The Secret Life of Plants and then report back to me, and we'll have the same conversation, and your opinion is going to be drastically changed. And when you return to your natural self, you work with your natural constitution. So if it says eat meat, then you eat meat. And if it says don't eat meat, then don't eat meat. There are times when, I eat with gratitude because what I get put on my plate and what I get put before me, I accept with gratitude the intent and the energy and what the earth did to put it together for me, and I accept that and I gladly eat it. And sometimes, however, I just, I smell meat and I go nauseous, and I just go, sorry, but I can't eat that at the moment. And that's because my body is then telling me, no, I don't need this. Maybe I'm a bit too acidic, and there's a lot of uric acid that gets produced in the body when you eat meat or whatever. So you roll with the punches and you roll with what your natural inclinations are. And if you're one of those vegetarians that starts to water at the mouth at the smell of bacon, then, eat some bacon.
Well, I know there's going to be some people that aren't going to like this conversation, but that's the way it goes. I mean, I
Yeah.
often push people's buttons, and that's part of my provocateur nature. And now you're doing the button pushing one. I've done it
Yeah.
before, but you're just adding to it.
Yeah, well, somebody was trying to push my button with it, and I think they went to the supermarket at the end of the conversation and bought themselves a pack of bacon. So, but
Well,
to be spiritual is to just be yourself, and I keep saying that, and I'll always keep saying that the spiritual is the ordinary, but the ordinary, what is perceived to be the ordinary, seen from a spiritual perspective, is really quite extraordinary.
well, we need to honor our preferences too, because we all have preferences, and you could
Yep.
say we all have our own preferences are nothing but our judgment of what we like and don't like.
Yeah, but
And we need to
yeah,
honor that.
yep, we need to honor that, but we also have to examine ourselves in the light of those preferences. Where do those preferences come from? Do they really come from my own internal feelings and observations and knowledge of knowing of who I am myself? And if so, then stand by them. But if they've been imposed on you in one way, shape, or form by a culture or by advertising or by all these very powerful and subliminal forms of conditioning that we're subject to, then throw them out. And when you throw them out, then you come into your own power, and then you become self-aware, and that will dictate. So be true to who you really are, but don't be true to your conditioning. That's the thing. Question everything. You have to question everything, especially what's going on within yourself. You have to see what the origin of it is, and don't let anybody tell you that you're not good enough. What you're feeling or what you're experiencing in yourself is not right, is not true, is not good enough, that you're a sinner, and they, all these senses of guilt and punishment and reward and all this sort of stuff that they've drummed into us for centuries. Let go of that stuff, and what's left standing after you drop all that, be true to that, and be true to that, without wavering. And then you'll see that that for a while you stand really alone in terms of where you are in society, but you will never be lonely in terms of what the universe brings you in return for that, being able to stand on your 2 feet and being true to who you really are. The universe rewards you in droves for that.
Yeah, we're in a process, I think, the whole human race, maybe even beyond, we're in a process of discovering that. And we discover it by all of the things that seem to be coming to us from the outside, but are they really coming from the outside, or is this something that our, quote, soul is giving us so that we can evaluate and make more intelligent and wiser decisions on who we are, and to know ourselves, to differentiate between the societal programming and the authentic nature that comes from within us.
Yeah, and we certainly have to. I think the way we got this deep into matter is by imposing upon ourselves a series of limitations. And it was almost like we did the reverse of meditation when we went in this deep, and we meditated ourselves into a bunch of very limiting perspectives of ourselves. And we took those on through a form of limitation until we got so deep that we could get no deeper, and we were so deep that we experienced separation fully. And sort of, the methods of meditation are almost the other way around. Now you have to unmeditate those limitations that you imposed upon yourself in order to becoming an incarnated soul. And now we have to bring this liberation into this depth of matter, this depth of incarnation. And there was only one way for us to get there, and that was by self-imposing limitations. So then, once you see it as a process that you self-impose limitations and that you can unimpose those limitations, then you see that nothing is really external, but the externals will come. Like if you become aware of something about your essential nature and you drop a piece of conditioning, then immediately out of your environment, the confirmation will come. And so you can see that as, oh, I read that book and then I understood something. But no, you actually first understood it and then you found the book to confirm it. If you'd have read that book a week before or a month before or a year before, you wouldn't have believed it, or it wouldn't have meant anything to you. So it does all come from within us. And the within is the ocean, and the without is just the beach that the waves of the oceans crash and roll upon and interact with. It is essentially the same thing. You can't really separate them. The world is your mirror, and it certainly does mirror what you put out into it.
Yeah, I agree, Peter. I'm feeling like we're close to the end of being complete for this. Let's see, what time is it? It's 25 minutes. So are you feeling that there's anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, I think I've probably gone a long way from a packet of bacon through the predator to being yourself and people trying to sell you spirituality and exploitation at all levels. So I think for most people already probably know this information because people are so well into their journey nowadays. But for somebody who's maybe not quite aware of these sort of things, there's probably a lot of food for thought. Food for thought. Yeah, we were talking about meat and vegetarianism, so food for thought. There you go. So
Well,
we'll
you and
leave it
I
at that.
definitely resonate on the same frequency in regard to what you've shared. So I do very much appreciate that. Um, and I have some friends I know that won't, but that's their problem, not mine. Anyway, I do thank you for being patient enough to give this the third try. And I notice my image has been frozen for most of this conversation. I don't know how it is on your end.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't even see you at the moment, but we
well,
just
we'll
thought
see.
we'd
We'll
give it
see
a
how it is,
shot.
and I'm gonna, unless it's terrible, I'm going to roll with it.
Yep, exactly. And in light of all the changing energies at the moment, that is the best advice is just to roll with it. Don't resist anything, roll with it. Ron, thank you as always. And
Thank you,
Ron's
Peter.
audience, thank you as always for connecting with me and Aristo as well. And geez, Aristo's videos with you are going for strength to strength too. I'm really enjoying those too. So hi to Aristo as well. And namaste, Ron.
Namaste, and don't let the fart police get you.
Ah, fart control.
People won't know what that's about, but that's okay. Bye.
Bye.